Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's Midday Western U.S. Regional Forecast video brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Well, we know that leading up to the very active weather pattern we're going to be seeing here over the next 4 to 5 days, we were quite dry in parts of the Northwest, specifically Washington, Oregon, and northern Idaho. You can see here that over the last 30 days, we've built up a deficit overall on our precipitation, and I've shown this week in our videos how that's played out in terms of early season snowfall. It's also now showing up with a little bit deeper drought category here when we look at our drought monitor that was just released yesterday afternoon, showing us now that we've pulled into the second stage of drought here across parts of like the I-5 corridor and getting there into coastal Oregon and Washington, but also over here in the Blue Mountains and then getting into a big chunk of Idaho as well, including the western side of the Snake River Valley. So the question is, are we going to be doing anything in the near term to kind of change this back around? And the answer to that is yes. And here's kind of the main flow that's coming off of the Pacific today. So this animation begins yesterday afternoon and goes through the overnight hours into early this morning. And this is when we talk about atmospheric rivers, this is what we're talking about. I think the only, I guess, unfortunate part of this particular feature is that it's going to be relatively short-lived. Sometimes these atmospheric river events can last 4 or 5 days. This one's really only going to be around for a short time, but it is really streaming in the moisture here into the Pacific Northwest in the near term. And it is certainly coming right off of Hawaii and then just barreling here toward the northwest. So we can see that our all-hazards weather map, we have flood watches, flood advisories out right there along the coast. Some strong, this is gale force wind warnings out here and winter storm warnings for parts of northern Washington state, getting up into parts of very northern tip of Idaho and that corner of Montana there that sticks into the Rocky Mountains. So what are we anticipating here in the near term? Let's just take a look at total accumulated precipitation through Monday night. And so about the biggest change that I've seen so far is that we've pushed the heaviest corridor of rainfall a little bit farther to the north. You can see that right now it's targeting basically Portland through Seattle and then getting just to the northern Cascade Mountains. And earlier this week, the same kind of band of heaviest rainfall was targeting right in through here. So it has shifted a little bit to the north. That's maybe the most significant change here when we look at the next 4 days of total accumulated precipitation. Taking a look at how much snowfall we're getting, most forecasts are suggesting that you got to get above about 3,000 feet, maybe even 3,500 feet before we really start to see the snow pack up in the Cascade Mountains. But this is going to be great. We need this snow. There is the potential on some of the higher peaks here of getting over 6 feet of snow out of this in the Cascade Mountain range, especially there in parts of Washington. But we are packing up parts of the northern Rockies here with quite a bit of snow as well. Now, over the next 4 days, that's all we're looking at here. So this is out to Monday evening. This system, because it's targeting more into the northwest, while we will be piling up some snow here in the mountain ranges in Northern California, the Sierra Nevada, you're going to have to wait your turn as we're watching the deeper trough that's currently sitting right here as it slides further to the south and comes toward parts of California in the remaining 4 days, so the next 4 days. And this is what we're looking at here. So this is now through next Friday night, well, midnight on Saturday. So we're now looking at the following 4 days, so basically Tuesday morning through Saturday morning. And what we see here is we're backing off in the precipitation amounts here in the Pacific Northwest, and we're shifting that trough further to the south, which is going to take aim here on Southern California. And you can see the anticipated precipitation totals, again, from Tuesday through Saturday, and we're looking here maybe in Southern California grabbing more than an inch of rainfall. This will also be piling up some of the snow here in the Intermountain West, specifically Nevada, the mountains of Nevada, and the Four Corners states. And I can kind of show you what we're anticipating there. But you do notice that in the Sierra Nevada, this does take our snow down here in the southern part of the range. Not as much as we would like to see this time of year, but remember, those reporting stations are still about 130 to 200% of normal on snowfall right now. So this will be packing up the snow here, and really what's happening is the deeper trough is finally moving over toward the Four Corners states as we progress into the end of 2019. Now, as we get now into that second week only, so now what I'm doing is I'm looking at next Friday to the following Friday. So this gets us out to January 3rd in the forecast. We are going to be seeing here the pattern favoring broader ridging in the Gulf of Alaska. And that tends to make the flow of the jet stream do this. And we see once again that the Pacific Northwest goes back over toward a little bit of a drier pattern here again. And the big questions I've got to try to answer is this going to be sustained? Is this what our winter pattern is going to look like? And as a result of that, what does this mean in terms of the total drop picture for our winter in the Northwest? It's kind of a Last year, we had so much snow, so this year is something that we need to be paying careful attention to because of that warmth that's out there in the North Pacific. So let's get into some of the details here. Let's just look at our operational European model. This is a snapshot early this morning, Friday, about 6 o'clock in the morning here. We can see the moisture coming right in along that atmospheric river, targeting parts of northern Oregon, but then getting into the state of Washington. As I press play on this, let's pause it pretty quickly here and bring you back. So this is now getting through this afternoon and this evening. This is getting into tomorrow morning, so this is Saturday morning here. Look at that ribbon of high moisture content air just streaming here into the Pacific Northwest. And this is getting into Saturday afternoon, evening, getting into Sunday morning. And it's at that point it finally starts to push into Northern California. By Sunday evening, we've got widespread precipitation across the northern half of California here. And I'm just kind of rocking back between Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening. And then you'll see here that the next feature we're watching is this cutoff low by Monday afternoon kind of sneak down here to the south. Now this is actually embedded in a deeper trough. I'll show you in a few moments. But that's the one that sneaks into Southern California by the time we get into Monday night into Tuesday morning, and then starts to emerge here into the central Rocky Mountains. Now you notice in the Pacific Northwest, we actually got a bit of a break from Sunday afternoon and evening through about Tuesday evening. And our next chance at precip comes in on Wednesday morning. You see right here just off the coast we got the precip coming in, and by Wednesday afternoon and evening it's really pushing into southern Oregon, beginning into northern California and sliding a little bit further to the south. So honestly, if the Pacific Northwest, you got your big chance at precipitation now in the near term, and then as you saw moving out farther than that, things kind of calm down a bit. When's our next chance in the Pacific Northwest? Well, let's play this on out. This is Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening. So it looks as though by the time we get out to Friday morning, that's our next big push of precipitation coming in to the Pacific Northwest. But again, this is nothing like the system we just saw. And as we noticed into week 2, the pattern favors wetter conditions more in the Intermountain West and in Southern California than it does in the Pacific Northwest. And I'm going to kind of show you what's going on there, okay? Now this is a little bit different view than I normally give you of our jet stream pattern, of our trough ridge pattern, but I got to show you what's going on globally so that we can understand the behavior in the North Pacific. So as we play this forward, here's the broader trough that between this trough, you can kind of see where I'm pointing down here, and this ridge, which is here, right in between the two is that stream of moisture. So remember, we need to have a trough offshore to be bringing in the strong onshore flow. If the trough sits over us, it's drier here in the Northwest. So this just got you out to Saturday evening, and this is when the trough pushes in. So you notice that once I got into the early part of next week, things dried out in the Northwest, and they targeted Southern California. That's because it's Southern California that's on the kind of the outgoing side of that trough right there. So that's the target. Now as I play this forward, we're going to look at bigger things here. We notice that with time, the troughs continue to develop here, but I want you to see the main kind of anchoring features in the flow of the jet stream. One, it's right here over the North Pole, that trough. Two, it's this ridge that builds up here along the eastern half of North America. And three, come over here to the Scandinavian area. This ridge building up here is going to eventually deepen the trough over the Arctic, and it's going to allow for ridging to build into the Gulf of Alaska. Watch it happen. Ready? As I get you out here to Friday the 27th, getting into Saturday the 28th, we end up seeing, look at this, Monday the 30th, New Year's Day. The features that really show up is a ridge kind of building here over parts of Western Europe. Trough well established over the Arctic. Ridge building into the Gulf of Alaska. That's what dries out the Pacific Northwest, but this is really going to crank up the pattern from Southern California all the way to the Northeast. And we need to see what this is, what this is not only going to do to our precipitation, which we already saw dries out week 2, but what it does in terms of temperatures, all right? So let's just take a look at the near-term temperatures. These are anomalies, so we're comparing these to normal. These are high temperature anomalies for the day on Friday. So out ahead of this system, with all that southwest flow, we're going to be seeing temperatures in some locations in the Northwest, maybe up to 15 degrees above average. Into California, it's generally 1 to 8 degrees above average. As we play this one forward, take a look at what happens on Saturday. So here we go. Saturday is high temperature departure from normal. Sunday is when the trough begins to slide south. There's Monday's departure from normal, and Tuesday and this is Christmas Day. So while much of the central part of the United States is going to be seeing above average temperatures, and please ignore this, this is a little bit of a miscalculation here in Oklahoma, but look out west. We're going to be seeing a cooler and in some places wetter Christmas because of the deeper trough that's moving over Southern California at this time. Now beyond that, take a look at the day 5 through 10 time period. Again, we see near average to cooler than average weather, especially as you go farther to the south. And as we get out here into the day 10 through 15, well, this is where the jet stream is wanting to do this. And as it does that particular setup, that keeps much of Southern California, Nevada, Arizona, and Utah here on the cooler side of things. In fact, all of our four corner states. This is at least good for piling up some snow here in the central part of the Rocky Mountains. But like I said, this is the wrong configuration in terms of the wind direction to keep things wet in the northwest, which is unfortunately why the week 2 time period looks dry. I want to stretch this out and show you some brand new data here. This goes all the way from January 1st through February 1st. So this is the 30-day forecast just released last night from what's called the European weeklies. And what I'm getting concerned about here is this flow pattern. And why I'm concerned is we know that in order to get a very wet January, we need to be having troughing sitting in this area with a bigger ridge sitting in this area, and that just helps pump in the moisture here into California, Oregon, and Washington. Well, if I take off those drawings, what we end up seeing here is that the models, I think, are latching onto the warmth in the North Pacific, keeping more of higher than average heights in through this area. That's ridging. And what this suggests to me is that the flow is probably going to split into two branches that do something like this. And split flow out west is not a wet pattern, especially for the Pacific Northwest. So I'm starting to get concerned about this. What this also tells me is with the broader trough sitting in this area, we could be seeing some cooler temperatures out west as well. Now normally when we see cold temperatures like this, we're always thinking, wow, is this going to mean a deep trough that comes in like this and potentially give us a lot more snow in the mountains? Yes, but unfortunately along our coastal region, which is where we have most of our ag productivity here out west, this is not exactly a wet pattern. All right, where's it wet? It's wet in through here. It's wet over the southeast. This is just a different setup for that, and I can actually show you that. So along the coast, see how things are looking drier? Wetter in the Intermountain West. This is just due to a lot more snow, and we crank up this area. Even though you see dry in through here, remember, this still is on the back side of these lows, so we could get quite a bit of snow potentially in here as we get into the month of January. Now, this is a long-range forecast from the European model. Just want to show you the latest. Is this going to be 100% accurate? No. We still have to watch this week by week to see how the behavior changes in the North Pacific, because remember, and this is probably the most important thing to remember, the Indian Ocean dipole collapsed, the Mad-Julian Oscillation will take over, and therefore the tropics combined with the warmth in the North Pacific will ultimately be the driver of our weather moving forward. And predictability on those timescales is limited to probably at best 2 to 3 weeks, and it's getting worse the farther out you go. So even though I'm showing you this, please remember that this is not set in stone, okay? I'll wrap it up there. I'll be researching this and studying it all weekend, present you some brand new information on Monday. Hope you have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you again very soon. Thank you.